4, 3, 2, 1.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point you realize you married into crazy. And that's what our show is all about. If your marriage or relationship is compassionate, real, accountable, zealous and yielding, or just plain crazy, Snooks and Lovey offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as they unpack this thing called marriage. Sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy ET. Look, if you're looking to or you got to raise the bar on your marriage, you gotta click the link and get into Married into Crazy, y'all. I'm telling you, this coaching is gonna take your relationship to another level. Now look, you already know you need to raise the bar. You know that already. So stop thinking or overthinking. Click that link, and Marriage into Crazy is gonna take you and your spouse to marital bliss. Now you know. Click the button. Let's go.
Amen. And I just love that. Especially I keep going back to being so young. When you're in your 20s, and I know when I was in my 20s, I could tell you everything that I was doing. I mean, I wasn't out there being all wild and crazy, but I always had a love for God. Always. But I was still going out. I was partying, we would go out Saturday night, no lie. We go out Saturday night, we go eat breakfast. We wouldn't get home till like 5 a.m, but we was all in church the next day. We might have been in the back, head bobbing or whatever, but
Right?
we knew we needed to be in church. But anyway, that's a great story. I love it. I love it.
Look, even though I wasn't a virgin, we was out all night. She's talking about I wasn't out there being wild. I was.
He was.
I grew up Catholic, so we also though be out all night doing whatever. And then the beauty of my youth was that I go to 8 a.m. mass, so we would go from breakfast 8 a.m. mass and then go to sleep afterwards.
1 hour,
Right?
Let me go get my repentance in before I go to bed.
Before I start all over again.
No, that's good. So I want to speed forward a little bit. So you've been married 12 years now, and with us, you took some the word of the day is intentional. You took some very intentional steps with not just premarital counseling, but pre-marital counseling. And I have to emphasize the fact that I believe that that's so important. Now, it doesn't have to be Married into Crazy coaching. We offer premarital counseling or coaching. Prior to that, we have couples that we've actually worked with that have actually graduated and become married as well. But get it somewhere, right? Through your church is a great place to start, or seek out coaching, counseling, however you do it. But there is something about understanding the bricks that you plan to build your home with.
Yeah.
Take an inventory. You don't build a home and just like, okay, somebody drops off the materials and okay, let's just go ahead and build it. No, those materials are inspected before you actually build a home to make sure that they're worthy of building the structure, of being part of what's going to be your future for quite some time. And the same thing needs to be done with our lives and when we're building something before God. So take that time, again, great lesson, but I want to go forward. So how long between when you guys first got married, like, oh, that's gross, I don't want to have kids, to now we starting a family?
I don't remember. It was honestly, it was maybe 3 of our friends back to back was getting pregnant, and there were just babies everywhere. And I was like, all right, I got the baby fever. I want one. That's cute. We can have a baby.
So
3 years?
no, about a little after 2. I think after the first year, that's when we was like, okay, first year we need to get to know each other. We had crazy schedules. I don't know about you guys, but our first year of marriage was probably the toughest year of marriage of our life. Just getting to know each other. Like she said, she's been living a lifestyle for the last 22 years, 23 years. I've been living a certain type of way for the last 25 years, and coexisting until one was very difficult and challenging. So once we figured out, we want to have kids, we couldn't get pregnant. And it took it took some time of us, every month, like, okay, it's not the month, it's not the month. And funny story, not funny, it's funny. We end up going to Jamaica. Had a great time, and we come we come back, and at the end of the sermon, our pastor brought us up, and he brought us up, and he started praying for us. He put the mic down, started praying for us, and started praying for her to have birth. I think 2 weeks later, maybe 3 weeks later, I come home and she has a book with a pregnancy test of how to be a daddy or
what to expect when you're expecting.
Yeah, and that was so. Yeah, it was about 2 years when we had when it actually came to pass.
So basically, what you saying is that y'all went to Jamaica and just got buck wild.
We had a good time. We had a good time.
I love how you said it at the same time.
I love it.
He's like, we have practiced this. No, we will only say we had a good time. We destroyed all the video.
That's on one accord. Okay, that's all that is.
I ain't mad.
Amen. So now you started a family, and we did allude to the fact that, so you have 2 children, and so you have a daughter and a son.
Yes.
And you had mentioned that you one of them is special needs.
Technically, but both of them are. So our daughter has ADHD, and our son is on the autism spectrum.
Interesting. So talk to us about
2 high needs kids,
high maintenance children.
Children.
Yeah.
As a young couple, what were some of the greatest obstacles in discovering that you had high needs children? Because I like that. I like high needs more so than special needs.
Yeah.
And but discovering that you have high needs children, what was the biggest challenge you had to overcome, and how are you dealing with that today or coping with that?
You can go first.
I think the first hurdle that we had was actually getting our son, going back to my son, is getting him diagnosed. I think my wife kind of saw something wasn't right because he wasn't talking at the age of 2. Or he had very limited, when I say limited, like probably 5 or less words that he was saying. And getting the medical field to diagnose him, which they did not want to do. It was definitely a fight. And, I applaud and I appreciate my wife for not allowing no to be the answer.
I had to go to like 3 or 4 different pediatricians before somebody would send us to speech therapy. And I'm like, you won't? Okay, next. You won't? Okay, next. Somebody's going to send us, because my daughter was speaking in complete sentences by 2. And I've had already 3 nieces born by this time. So I'm like, this is not correct. Right. And somebody's going to send us to speech therapy.
Right. So when they actually did send us, and we went to a speech therapist, and that's when she recommended that we go to get them diagnosed for autism. Of course, as a male, I was in denial because as men, especially when we have our sons, we vision what our sons are going to be like. We vision, especially my son who has my last name, has my full name, we just like, this is how my son is going to be. Yeah. And then when somebody could tell you real quick that he might not end up the way that you envision all your life for him to be, you go to, I'm going to use one of y'all episodes, fight or flight, where, where it's like, okay, no, what are you talking about? How is this happening? Well, he lined up cars. But all kids line up cars. So it took and I'm sorry, I'm not answering your question directly.
No, you're good. Go.
It took for both of us, and she asked me, what do you think? And I'm like, no, I don't believe it's true. Whatever. And then once I started doing research, we started doing research on it and seeing like, okay, these are signs of autism. And once, we got him diagnosed with the school, and then we got him diagnosed medically, and they both came up, he was autistic. Now I had to switch my thinking of what can we do to make sure he gets all the help he needs, and to push him forward, because I talked to some of the dads who have special needs kids, and a lot of them are running away from the situation, or working so much so they won't see, because it's like it's a reflection of them. And I'm saying, no, it's not a reflection of you. And by you ignoring it is not going to do anything better. What you need to do is be that advocate and pushing for him and giving him what he needs. So we dealt with that. We dealt with him going to a school where it was in the public school system at three or four once he got diagnosed. And we know kids get in fights. We're not worried about him getting in a fight. But when there's 10 kids, there's 6 aides, and my son has a scratch or he got in a fight. And
he kept getting hurt.
He would
come home with bruises and scars.
And nobody knows what's going on. I have an issue with that.
Yeah,
my wife
exactly.
has an issue with that. So at that point, that's when we was like, you know what? We have to do what's best for him. So we took him out of the public school and put him in a private sector where, ABA therapy, where it's a lot of one-on-one, and they graduate them to more and more kids. Of course, it was hard because the first session, he's biting and kicking the aide. One of them came down crying.
Oh yeah. He ran a few of them out of there. Like, they couldn't deal with him. So a little picture of my son. He didn't like anybody. He wouldn't eat anything. He wouldn't go to anybody. He didn't like Dom half the time. It was like he would only talk to kind of me, Camila, and the librarian, surprisingly, were like the only people that he was happy and content with. He would walk out, I call it, like he broke a rocking chair, he broke a closet door because he couldn't communicate. And he was strong for a toddler. He still is, yeah. And it was very hard just keeping him alive, honestly, because he wouldn't eat. He was just surviving on baby food and crackers. And it was challenging for me. And when we got the diagnosis, it was like I had to go through, somebody explained to me like a year after, but you had to go through like a grieving process because, like you said, like I had envisioned, like I want to have a son, I want to be this boy mom, and you think of what their life is going to be like, and it wasn't anything like that. So I had to go through a grieving process, and it was so hard for me because being a stay-at-home mom is hard. Being a mom with a toddler that hates everybody is hard, and it was a tough season. I went through a little bit of a depression when we got that, because I'm like, I don't know anything about autism. So like I said, we had to do a lot of research. We had to do a lot of looking into programs and services and expectations, for as he's older. And then you kind of go into mama bear mode, because I'm realizing like a lot of stigma in the Black community is I don't want to label my child with something, but I'm like, that diagnosis is going to get you access to services. That's
true.
That's what people don't want, that they don't realize. I'm like, okay, you're not going to get him diagnosed. He's going to struggle for nothing. So go ahead and get your diagnosis. That's going to give you access to all the resources that's out there, and he can get the help that he needs. So we just started like, okay, he would do like 5 or 6 hours of therapy a day. We have therapy. We had ABA therapy. We had speech therapy. We had occupational therapy every week. So I tell you, this was the busiest toddler in the world, but it paid off. And he, because he wouldn't listen, he wouldn't follow directions, he wouldn't do what you asked him to do. And he couldn't communicate what he needed. So now with all of these tools, we got the picture exchange program in place. Was teaching him sign language. And we were just trying to get him in more group settings, and get him involved with playing with other kids and learning how to do those things. So just really like taking that initiative, word of the day, and being intentional about getting the resources, getting the things that he needed so that he could be successful. And it was hard, and it was a lot, and it was a lot.
But it did, and I know y'all probably have a statement, but it's part of now fast forwarding where through all that hard work and dedication, he was able to graduate from that ABA class at the age of 5. As we went back to diagnose him for the public school. They wouldn't accept him in a special needs class because they're saying the only thing that's stopping him is communication, but he's a normal kid. So now he's in a normal.
He's in a general ed class.
He's in general ed. Yeah, not normal. He's in a general ed kid. He's speaking a lot more. He's doing sign language a lot more. He loves me. He loves people. One of the sweetest boys you could ever meet. He doesn't fight. He's not
aggressive.
He's
like
not
you
aggressive
say.
like he used to. He's eating food. He's trying new food. And for those who are in the who are parents in the parents of an autistic kid, them being very picky with food is a huge hurdle and challenge. And for him to be able to at least try it, lick it, do all that is a huge achievement. And we're just we're very thankful, and it's hard work, and we're continue to advocate and continue to no, we're not going to settle for how can I work? We know what's best. We know what we want our son to get and what services we want. And we'll be in the room with 9 or 10 people no, we want him to get A, B, C, and D. And they'd be like, well, we don't think. And they're thinking about money and time. And we're like, no, this is our son. And we're the only ones that's going to advocate for him. We're the only ones going to be there. So when you have, and if we have Black parents both there who are advocating that where we live, it's not a lot of us here, but they see it and they're like, okay, they're on board, and those teachers, they thank us because they don't see that a lot.
Yeah.
And not just Black parents, but just parents really, okay, this is what we have, and we're going to fight, and we're not going to we know what's best and we know what we want, and until we get it, we're going to continue to fight, not for us, but for our son.
That's right.
That's bomb. I just have to interject because there was so much to unpack there, and we're not going to be able to unpack everything. But I will say this: it starts with the diagnosis. It starts with advocating for your child.
Yeah.
And you did that, and so many don't because of the stigmas, because of the time, because of the depression, because of the denial. There's so many things that you touched upon that I hope everybody needs to go back and rewind and identify where you see yourself in this journey.
That's right. And just kind of going exactly where you were going. Thank you for your tenacity and your diligence and not settling, not saying, oh, well, this is what they said. Because like you pointed out so eloquently, Malique, that in our community especially, there's this thing about being labeled or being diagnosed, but you hit it on the head. The diagnoses will get you the resources.
Yep.
A lot of times they get the diagnoses and then they stop. No, that's not the end of it, because one of the problems is, and I think back to being in school when younger, we didn't know a whole lot about this type of stuff. Back in the day, if you had a diagnosis, if you was ADHD, that meant you was just a bad kid. But we didn't know that it was called ADHD. And so you were expected to be in the same classroom because you didn't want to go to the special ed classroom or whatever, because at that time, in special education or remedial would have you. So now the expectation for this child who actually has a problem, has a challenge, has an issue, you're expecting this child to perform the same way that someone who doesn't have it. And when they're not performing, then that's where the problems come. Because for children, it's like, well, I can't keep up anyway. So now I'm just going to act silly, or I'm going to act out. So now there's a different label. They're going to be labeled one way or the other. Either get them labeled the correct way with the resources, or they're going to be labeled this way, which is still going to follow them through all the rest of their life. And unfortunately, just working in the prison system, seeing it, there were a lot of people who were there. Maybe had they had the resources earlier in life, they may not have ended up being there in the first place. You know what I'm saying?
Say that. Come on.
So that's my soapbox.
That's a lot, and again, let's not lose sight of the fact that you are a young couple.
Still young, very young.
It was so much life to be lived. And I see joy. I see a gracefulness that sits upon both of you that I am just excited about. How do you find time? Because I know you said you travel a lot. You went to Jamaica, and, we'll just leave it at you had a good time. But you've done, I follow you on social media. Y'all travel the world. Y'all are everywhere. So how do you haven't lost sight of the fact of traveling and seeing the world with your children. How
Yeah.
do you guys do that?
He plans it and I pack the bags and we
I know
go.
that's right.
You put it on the calendar. You have to be intentional. Word of the day. You put it on the calendar, you plan it, and you go. You can honestly, there's programs where if you have a child that is autistic, y'all can get on the plane first. You can go and talk to the captain. They can go sit up in the, sit up in the captain's seat and talk to them. Like you find places that are kid friendly that have a daycare, so you can drop them off for a little while and go and have a good time. You find things that are family friendly and go see the world. I've always been of the mindset of I don't want to be work, church, and home. I don't want to have my kids only see 20 blocks past their house and nothing else, because I hadn't been to on a plane besides once before I met him, and no, twice. And I didn't want them to have that experience. I want them to be able to see the world, see how other people live. And we haven't seen the world. We've been to the Caribbean and we've been to Mexico and a bunch of different places thereabouts. But I want to go. I'm like, I want to go to everywhere. I want to go everywhere. I want to see the world. I want to eat the food.
Right.
I want them to have those experiences of zip lining, of playing with monkeys, of doing things that everybody doesn't get to do. Swim with dolphins, all those kind of things.
I think early in our marriage, we talked about this again, and with kids and everything that's going on, I try to keep this as a mind frame. I want them to remember what we do with them, not what we do for them. Because it's easy for us to say, well, and if I could quote Rhonda, what she told me yesterday, where it's like, we could just continue to say, well, we clothe them, we bathe them, this and that, but they do that in prison.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they love them. But when they see us, like, we creating memories, that's the stuff that me and our kid, we all talk about. We remember when we was playing swim with dolphins and stuff like that. So it's creating memories that going to last us a lifetime instead of, well, we're in this big house, or we ate this, or we ate out. They're not going to remember that, but they always going to remember going to Jamaica, going to Mexico, going to Monkey Park in the Dominican Republic. So those type of memories that we're striving to do.
Right. And so I have like 2 life goals. I'm like, I want to stamp every single page in my passport before I retire. And I want my kids to have the least amount of negativity to talk about the therapist with about me. So my goal is for you to have more positive memories of your childhood than negative. I don't want you, and your therapist, oh, my mom was so horrible, the parental issues that we both have, the trauma that we both have. I don't want them to have that. So I make sure that I'm sitting on the couch with you every day. I am in your face every day. I am asking about everything that has to do with your life, because I want to be present, because I want to make sure that you know that your voice and your opinion matters to me, and I want you to do the things that you love. Our son plays basketball and he's so good at it. Our daughter is in drama, because I told her, I'm like, all right, if you're going to be dramatic, you got to do it productively. Yeah. So get on the stage. And she's amazing. Yeah. And she shines. And she's so much unlike me, because I hate it for people to look at me. I'm like, no, the stage spotlight, no. But she loves it. So I'm like, be you.
Right.
And the same thing with our niece. I'm like, she loves volleyball. All right, we're going to find a volleyball program. He found a volleyball program that's off season. So I'm like, all right, we going to do the things that you love, because what is important to you is important to me.
That's right.
That's what's up.
I love it.
There's so many bars in there. Look, I seriously, I had to get introspective there for a second, because Dom, you said that we can either do stuff with them. You want them to be aware of what you do with them, not for them.
And
that's huge.
Can I plug myself real quick? Because that's what I've been telling him for years. And I'm just so grateful and thankful that it finally sunk in. Because I'm like, don't do it for me. Do something with me. Because that's not going to make a lasting impression. And I'm just so thankful to God that my husband hears me when I speak. And some people don't. Go ahead. Sorry.
I still want you to do stuff for me, though. Okay.
A little bit of both. A little bit of both.
Just a little.
That's two different.
Right.
That's two different things that she talking about, though. That's us. That I'm still.
But it translates well.
Doing it.
No, that and also, man. Yeah, well, okay, you said Snooks gave you this advice, but I'm like, I never heard it, but I'm like, wow. When you
I'm
said
deep,
that,
bruh. You just don't be paying attention to me when I'm talking. I am so deep, man.
Well, when you said that, well, I love him, because I think of James Evans immediately when I was thinking of Good Times. When you said, I feed them, I clothe them, I give them you said you put clothes in their back. And when you said, well, that's prisons do the same thing, I was like, whoa.
Right.
I said that though. I just want
I give you props.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, wow, that hit, and I need some parents out there to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That just because you put a roof over their head, you put food on the table, you put clothes on their back, that's no different than what the CDC is going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The Department of Corrections. So do more than that. Be more than a prison.
Yeah.
That's going to do the bare minimum. That's crazy. And then the fact that you two really vibe well. You work really well together. You do. I can see it, and I think it's an energy that hopefully everyone's going to be able to feel on YouTube and on their radios, or not radio, but on your phone or wherever you're listeing to the podcast.
Radio.
But because you two work together, you also work together. You have a business, Mullens Travel.
Yes.
I help on occasion, and I'm not even gonna sit up here and lie like, oh yeah, I do the travel. I'm like, no. I do whatever he asks me to help. Whatever.
Well, I know personally that you do it because, it's funny when Malique, when you were talking about how you got to look for certain venues when you travel, what their amenities are, and do they have a daycare, do this, that, and the other. One thing that when we went to Turks and Caicos, we did it through Mullens Travel, which was the most amazing time that we've had. But a big part of that was, we had inherited our grandson. And so we were like, okay, well, we're going to take him with us. But we were so nervous about what do we do with him while we're there. And the fact that I should plug them, but they're not paying us.
Talking about beaches.
So I'll even say it, beaches. Beaches, it was an amazing aspect because they had people that were certified to work with children, in a wide spectrum. They have specifically certified people for autistic children, but they're just amazing with all children. And our grandson was difficult to say the least. And he loved it. And it was great to the point where he was like, okay, bye. I don't need to see you. He would wake up like, okay, when am I going? I'm like, well, you want to go to breakfast with us? And he'd look at us like,
he did not want to go to breakfast with us. No. He just wanted to go straight to the kids club. Yeah. We're like, well, babe, you got to eat something. And so we would eat, and he would like be looking around. I mean, he's also like really picky or whatever too. I mean, we've kind of talked about this too. That's why I love you guys also, because you guys give us some insight on, we call it not special needs children. What do you say?
High needs.
High needs. Yes. Isaiah's very high needs. And, but just seeing how you all move with DJ, I was like, okay, so I'm like, let me text Dom. Let me ask him a question about how do they, and he's like, oh, ask Malik, but it's always, it's good to know, to have, a support team. Like Lovey said earlier, as iron sharpens iron, we as couples should sharpen each other. But let's go a step further. We as parents should sharpen each other too, because you have some insight on a particular situation that we didn't have insight on. I had no idea about really how to deal with a high needs child. Well, I mean, kind of we did because our son, but we went through the normal channels and, did the therapy and whatever. And Kay was he didn't have ADHD. He had ADD. So that was kind of different when dealing with Isaiah, though. Isaiah's a whole different bear. But just being able to have that, hey, have you experienced this? Have you, if we don't keep things such a secret because we're so ashamed of them, you can find that, oh yeah, y'all, I've been through that, blah, 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 whatever. So that was one of the reasons why when we went to eat Turks and Caicos, well, because beaches, period. But now, our travel game is on a different level. Because when we're looking, we're like, oh, do they got a kids club? Wait, hold on. Because what we gonna do with him? We trying to do our thing. He want to do his thing too. So now we know our traveling is different, because we're intentionally looking for something that he's going to be able to do and have his own fun with, not like just be apart from us, but he still gets his own memories too, because he might not want to go swim with the sharks, or I don't want to swim with sharks either, but you know what I'm saying? He's going to be able to do something with his peers.
And I gotta say this too. I mean, again, this is a plug for Mullens Travel, which is, by the way, the official travel agency of Married into Crazy.
Yes.
And so we highly recommend. We're going to put your information in the show notes so that everyone will be able to access you and reach out to you, because it's that important. And let me tell you why. It's not just because we've grown to love you over the years. We went on a trip that had nothing to do with Mullens Travel.
Yep.
And these folks was tripping. The people we were dealing with, losing information. And so Snooks was like, well, I know a guy. And so she was like, let me reach out to him. She reached out to Dominic, like, hey, well, we're supposed to be doing this, but we haven't heard anything, and da-da-da-da. Dominic was like became our unofficial travel agent and guiding us through the shenanigans that these other people were doing, lack of information here and there. And our trip ended up being absolutely amazing because of the care that he provided to us, even when he didn't get paid. He did it out of the goodness of his heart and in his spirit. Mm-hmm. And that's when we made the commitment, like, I don't know when, I don't know how, but we're going to travel again, and we're going to make sure we utilize them, because we felt not obligated, but like it's the right thing to do. He stood in the gap for us when our other agent, who was brought on by somebody else. Anyway, they were amazing. And so anyway, so Mullens Travel. So how did you even get involved in the travel business?
Yeah, so it started with people because we always traveled. People said, well, how did you get this deal? And I'm always looking for deals, like mostly everybody who travels. We're trying to find the best deal. And at the time, like I said, my wife was a stay-at-home mom, and I hate overtime. Like at my job, I mean, I'm blessed and thankful for my job, but I do not want to be another 8 hours away from my family. So, I met a friend who was on his exit out of the business because he's like, it's not making enough money, this and I'm like, well, if it brings in $100 a month or whatever it is, I'll be thankful. So got more information. And the first year I just grew, where it was just thinking about training. I'm going through trainings. As soon as the whole family was asleep, I'm up until midnight just training, just learning destinations. And then I started realizing, okay, my intention for this is to help people who don't travel, especially our people, because a lot of people are like, I'd rather spend our money on ABC, on some Jordans, or on the new iPhone and this and that. But if you save that $250 or save whatever that money is, and I do offer payment plans as well, and you start doing little by little, next thing you know, you're going on a trip and you're creating those memories. And that's my heart in this business. It's not to make a whole bunch of money, because I'm blessed with my regular job, but it's to see people with those pictures creating memories with their family. So that's why I continue to do it. That's why we do it together at times. And it's just a great avenue to get people to travel, as well as, I'm not part of a pyramid scheme, so to speak. So I'm also, big on, if people want to get into the field, I'm not trying to get money from you. I'm not trying to, get you part of my business, but just help people get into business. Because I believe that you got to have, like, Married into Crazy. Like, there's other avenues where it's not just your day job, but you're doing something that you're passionate about. And what's really big is what you're called to do. Mm-hmm. And when you're walking in your calling, finances are going to come. So it's been a blessing. And I have to, still going back to us two, where I really had to specialize in what I'm doing and not just, oh, yeah, I could give you the Thailand, I could do this and that, where I could go through more training, but this is more important. My kids is more important. So yes, the travel business is a beautiful thing, and I'm thankful for it. And of course, there's always more money I could make, and there's always more business I could do. But when I'm taking care of this, when I'm taking care of what's happening with my kids, and when I'm taking care of what God wants me to do, and I continue to walk in my purpose, things happen. So it is, we're here to help, and it's definitely a great business, and I think that's it.
And I will make a little caveat too. Like if people want to come and you don't actually intend to travel, don't ask. Like if you just want to know for the sake of knowing how much it would cost, we don't really have time for that. But if you I actually have the money for it and I actually want to go somewhere, yeah, hit us up. Because like you said, we are busy. We do have a lot of stuff that's going on, and
I'm not mad at that. I love it.
Don't actually want to go nowhere, don't just Google it. You don't
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Again, today's episode has been sponsored by the word intention. Be intentional, even with your travel. But I do love the fact that you talked about how you're a busy couple. You have your jobs. You have your high needs children. You're super active within the church.
Yep.
You have a business that you run, and you still find time to travel. And the calling was to help other people that wouldn't normally travel to figure out how to do it. But if you have this desire, we're going into 2024. You have this desire where I want to see the world. I want to get out there. I want to get on a plane. I want to see those things. Look, I'm going to break it down for you even further. Folks, if you have a tendency to say, must be nice, that comes out your mouth more often than not when you see other people doing things. You need to actually set the intention in 2024 to make sure that you have that experience. And you can do it. It's there. It's going to take some stretching. It's going to take some sacrifice. It's going to take some planning. It's going to take connecting with individuals that are going to be able to assist you in moving in that direction. And the Mullens and Mullens Travel is one of those people that can help you do that if you are intentional about seeing it through.
Yeah.
Right? So I want to thank you two for spending time with us. So it's going to be in the show notes, but how would people reach out to you regarding Mullens Travel?
So we do have a Facebook page, Mullens Travel, as well as email is best. It's mullenstravel@gmail.com. I'll send all the information.
Okay.
But yeah, those are the two ways. From there, I'll be able to, send you the form, the informational form where you can write exactly what you want, and then we'll have a conversation.
Sounds good. And I'm going to ask you, if you know off the top of your head, if you can just come off the dome real quick, for those people that are in the process of how do I find out, how do I know if I have a high needs child? I suspect it. What resources or where would you point them to be able to go and get information? Is there a website or?
Honestly, you can look for just Google symptoms of autism or symptoms of ADHD and see how many your child match up with. And if it's more than a couple, I would go to your doctor. The main place that can advise you on if you need a diagnosis or not, talk to your pediatrician, because then they can hook you up with whatever specialist that would do a test for you. And if you suspect at all, just get them tested because they're the experts and they would know.
As well as your school too.
The school,
because there's a lot of difference between the medical diagnosis and the educational diagnosis. So, some things are medical where it won't transfer into educational. So I encourage you to do both because like Malique said earlier, there's resources in the educational field and there's resources in the medical field.
Yeah.
So it's all about getting those resources, and the key word I'm using a lot is exposure. It's giving your kids exposure to these programs that they have available.
That's right.
And see what fits, because all the programs don't work for everybody. There's a big controversy about ABA therapy, because honestly, ABA teaches and not a whole lot else. So if that's not the problem for your child, maybe that's not going to be helpful for you. Or if that's not what you need, maybe that wouldn't be helpful for you. But so you get those professionals, and even go into like the regional center. So we have like the Valley Mountain Regional Center where they do diagnosis and they do have resources, and there's a huge stack of papers that you fill out. And do you see these things sometimes, always, never, and you fill those things out and they can tell you, if you qualify for services with or without a diagnosis. I'm not sure. But the regional center is a good resource, and they're everywhere.
That's huge.
That's great.
That's huge. And we thank you. We thank you for your time. We
Thank you guys.
For your knowledge.
Yes, so much.
Thank
so
you for
much.
your love that you're exhibiting. We thank you for everything, and for extending grace for doing 2 interviews today. Or say 1.5.
1.5.
Creating diamonds. Creating diamonds.
Amen. Amen. All right. Well, look, hey, like we always say, when it comes to choice, you have a lot of opportunities, to get out there and talk to other couples, listen to other podcasts. This is why you should keep coming back to the Married into Crazy podcast. So go ahead, hit subscribe, make sure that you come back and continue to join the conversation. Until the next time,
be blessed.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. Please like, subscribe to, and review the show wherever you access it, and tell a friend about us. Visit marriedintocrazy.com and see how Snooks and Lovey can bless your marriage directly.